are like you and me. We have faults and we have frustrations, but he chose us to lead other people. What is leadership? Leadership is influence. How are you using your influence? Let's close in prayer. Now, here's the thing. You look behind you. You're like, let's go to Dairy Queen. Okay, let's get it. You look behind and you see who's walking in your footprints. And if you look at each one of these up here, they will tell you that it's scary to be in leadership. Because when we're given the platform that we've been given, thousands and thousands of kids that we have in the palm of our hand through all these years, 40 years I've been involved in youth ministry. And you know what? I was probably the most nervous with my own children, knowing that no matter what kind of parent that I was going to be, they can make choices to go one way or the other. So I encourage you, us, we've made the mistakes. We've also done some things, but we've always said, the five of us, to the people that follow us, follow me as I follow Christ. Follow me as I follow Christ. It really keeps me on the straight and narrow to know that leadership is influence, and I can influence people for good or for bad.
Thanks, Tim. And yeah, go ahead. No, seriously, and I think a lot of times what we forget is that leadership isn't just for the people underneath us. That's not who we're leading. You might have a friend who's decided that they want to follow in your footsteps, whether you like that or not. Sometimes you turn around and you're like, do I need a donkey kick you off of me? Like, quit following me. But this is how important leadership is, that you take those opportunities to pour into the lives of other people as seriously as you can to change their trajectories, to change their potential forevers. And so anyways, like I said, let's go ahead and get started asking some questions. What I want us to do here real quick, and if each of you can chime in on this one, and then we'll just go from there. Let's define what leadership looks like to you, because I think it can look like something different to each person. So go ahead, whoever wants to take that first. And obviously, we have, Tim pointed out, leadership is influence, but let's kind of build on that here a little bit.
To me, leadership is being a good example and doing the right things, going the right direction, like what Tim is saying.
Yeah. Letting people, if they're going to be following in your footsteps, you better make sure you're making the right direction, or taking the right direction, taking the right step. So, go ahead, Scott. What do you think?
Tim's kind of a hard act to follow. Leadership, just from my experience and the things that I've been through, is being humble, having a lot of humility. And trust me, I had a phase in my life when I was younger where I was very proud and arrogant, and I got pruned for that. And that was probably, I look back at that as the best thing that ever happened to me. So to me, leadership is learning, being humble, asking a lot of questions, and then kind of reach behind to pull somebody else up. And the one thing I've learned, I'm big into mentors. So I've had a lot of men, older men, adults, and people that have been mentors to me, that if you just ask people for help or for advice, most people will say, what do you need? What can I help you with?
Yeah.
And that's been the best thing for me as far as learning from their experience. So I don't have to make mistakes that they made.
No, exactly. Well, and I think just on that point as well, too, I want to ask everybody this question, and I want to give you guys the opportunity, too. If you have a question for them as I'm going through stuff, feel free. We want this to be very much open discussion, question and answer. If you want to take notes, feel free to do that as well, whether it's on your phone or we have a life journal for you if you need that. That when you're in that type of situation where you need mentors, I guess this is really what I want to get to, is ask yourself right now, do you have that type of person in your life or type of people? Or are you afraid to step out? Because this is what I struggle with, and I don't know if you were there ever at any point in time, where you almost like feel shame that you have to have a question about something. That could just be me, but I don't know if that relates to you here tonight. That it's so important for us to grab onto a mentor. And so if you have those questions or if you have those things that you're looking for, I challenge you tonight. If you don't have that, let's find that. Let's write that down, that this is an actionable step I'm going to take in my quest to grow as a leader. So go ahead, Amanda. What do you think?
Of course, leadership is influence, and the first thing that comes to my mind as well is leadership is first about being a great first follower. I think the best leaders that I know are incredible followers. They know who to follow, which is probably the most important, and then they know what to imitate. And of course, if we're following Jesus, we have that example, but then there's also, the people examples around us too. And something that I've been challenged to is to live a life that's imitatable. And if you're doing something that you wouldn't want to have imitated, then that's probably a good gut check for a course correction.
Thank you. Tim, do you have anything that you want to add on to that?
No, that's
Cool.
all I know.
Yeah, that was literally, I'm disappointed that he used it all up at the beginning. I don't know if we have anything else to go. Can anybody get him a snack or maybe a nap area? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, well, I gotta figure the power.
This is the brains of the family.
Yeah, don't say that.
Test.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, well, when Jordan asked me to do this, I said I'm really not a leader. I'm just a mom, and my husband and I own a business together, and I'm more of a support person than really a leader. But then we got to talking, and he is a very persuasive, good person to get you to do stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll come. But basically what I think leadership is kind of what she touched on, where I try to find people that do things well and then imitate, but maybe try to do a little bit more, put myself into it and say, okay, well, what could I add to this to make it a little better? And so imitation is the biggest form of flattery. And so I have learned from some really great women. I've learned, I'm going to call a woman out that's not here tonight, but like Eileen Danko. She's like this incredible Energizer bunny that's put some influence on my life. I don't know if any of you asked me to do this. I go, oh my gosh, I see Eileen doing this. I can see, Michelle Ball, who's new to our church. I could see her doing this. I was just thinking of other people that have had some influence on my life, especially in the last year. And so I really think about like what my husband said, getting a mentor, and I have a lot of mentors of just women I didn't really realize that have helped stretch me and want me to be a better person. And therefore influence maybe my kids or some kids that are friends of my kids. So I guess that's kind of really my answer.
Yeah.
That's great. Piggybacking off that, when the rest of us look at Jordan and Beth, we've all had an impact on them for years. But I always say if it wasn't for Bruce and Cindy, providing the great family that they have, family plays a big role in it. People say, how do you raise great kids? Your kids are out there changing the world, I said, I can't take credit for that. I can take credit for creating an environment in my home, but people have a free will and they can do what they want to do. So I told my kids, I said, you want me to stop preaching at you, you get a mentor.
Yeah.
I mean, there was dust in my house, okay? They just out the door to find a mentor to shut Papa up. And so they had a mentor really quick. And so the way I look at it is this, and you remember this from class, and Robbie does too. I'd always say to you guys, what? You got a Paul, you got a Timothy, you got a Barnabas. Paul in your life who is older than you, that's stronger in the faith, that you can meet with as a mentor to help you with the tough questions. How you treating your wife? Spending time with the kids? How's your language? Are you texting the wrong people? Are you on some bad sites? People that will ask you the tough questions. You need that Paul, someone that's a little stronger, a little bit older, that kind of thing. The Timothy is someone younger in the faith that you're discipling. It's really hard to step out of line like we've been talking about in the imitation game when you're discipling someone that's younger than you, and you don't want to act perfect, but you want to be a good example to them. And so people always say, well, I'm going to wait until I'm really committed to the Lord before I do. No, you just jump in right now, and this will help, okay? The Barnabas thing we leave out, and that's someone kind of our age that is another assistant coach or someone on the worship team or something that's our encourager that is there to say, hey, you can make it through this, because we all have problems. This was a year in our family of problems, of everything that you can think of. And so having that encourager there to say, choose joy. Don't let people or circumstances ruin your day. Stay strong, that kind of stuff. So let me ask you, as I asked you before, you have the influence. Are you using it for the Lord, or are we leading people astray? The same thing here. I would say you have that Paul in your life that you're meeting with regularly. Billy Graham said before he died, he said, a man without an accountability partner is a spiritual affair waiting to happen. I don't know what he totally meant by that, but I do agree with that we need to have that accountability. And not to pick on the women, but I think they do it better as far as being more honest and open and meeting together regularly. And then us guys, we get busy and we don't do that. So ask yourself, do you have the Paul? Do you have the younger person, the Timothy? Even if you come to Jordan sometime and go, I can't teach a class, but I can do this. And that's really what Jordan's going to say is what is your gift? What do you like to do? You want to do the camping thing. You want to do the mission trip thing. You want to do the sports thing. You want to do whatever. We always think it's got to be just about teaching and preaching and leading worship. It's way more, guys, than that. But make sure you have the Paul, Timothy, and Barnabas in your life.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And it really is. It's fun to be able to do this and be a facilitator for truth. I don't even have to say anything. just let you guys take the wheel. So let me jump into our next question. This is really hopefully going to take us into kind of the turn of what this night's really all about, and that's leaving a legacy. Because there's so many facets of leadership, right? But what are we here for tonight? You want to learn, how am I going to leave the right legacy? Or maybe how do I rectify the legacy that I feel like I'm leaving that I'm not quite proud of, or that I would like to change? And so here's what I want to ask you guys, is how do you prioritize your life as a leader? What comes first in the totem pole, or however you list things out in your life of this needs to get done as I get ready to take my steps and I know people are following after me. What is my main thing? And I'm not looking for the regular church answer of well, Jesus is the main thing. What for you? What do? You wake up first thing in the morning. This is how I'm going to be a better leader today. This is how I'm going to lead today. And anybody can take it first. Go ahead.
I'll take it, Coach Slade. My favorite book, all-time book, was I Am Third. I think I read it. Was the only book I think I ever read when I was in high school. It was I Am Third. I had to do a report on it, but it's God, your family, friends, and you. But as far as for me, once I got married and had kids, that became my priority. Even though I worked a lot in my job and stuff, but I made sure I coached all the sports and I made it to all the family stuff, and I think that's still the number one, besides God, but your family and your friends. But right now my family's pretty grown up and gone, so now I have this business, Fountain Hills Physical Therapy, so it's kind of my thing right now, so I'm really grooming that, and eventually I'd like to leave that to someone to kind of keep it going. That's why I didn't name it Green Street Physical Therapy. I want it to be Fountain Hills Physical Therapy, so that someone later.
Talk about legacy right there. That's pretty.
That'd be kind of cool. Someone can take it and go from there and provide the service for the people in Fountain Hills.
So I guess just to sum up what I feel like you were saying is it's all about kind of, for you, your priority as a leader is putting that other person first, or that other thing first that's going to really leave the legacy. It's not about you, your glory, the satisfaction you're getting from it, but how can you pour into the lives of others, whether it's your kids or the people that you're impacting at FHPT. So, anybody else answers to that question?
The two things that come to my mind first is balance, right? So there's many areas of our life. The top ones that come to my mind would be like faith, family, friendship, finances, fitness, physical
Football.
health. Fitness, that gets an F, it goes. Those are all 5, for your outline. So I think it's important as a leader. I think we all probably can think of someone who had one of those areas really nailed at the expense of a different one, right? And especially our upfront leaders, it's a trap I think a lot of us can fall into, because you can have a nice facade, but the inside can be crumbling. And we do a huge disservice to those that are really trying to follow us when that happens, because that's not what we want to have imitated at the end of the day. So I think it's important to kind of take inventory of those areas, or whatever you feel like the most important areas of your life are, and making sure that one isn't cannibalizing the other, right? Because we can be really great at serving the students in our community, but ignoring our own in our own home. Or we can, be really in shape, but our finances can be a disaster and not be glorifying God at all by the way that we're being stewards of our resources. So whatever the areas of our life, I think there's always room for leadership, and if we want to be imitatable in all those areas, not just in one.
Yeah, and I think we can. Did you have more to add to that?
No, you can go
No,
on.
so I think I just want to take that natural progression into the next question: is how do you really find balance? And I don't know if you guys struggle with that at all. I feel like like you have to, in a sense. Like that's what I'm measuring all the time. Is I'll come home and I'll be like, Beth, like I did this amazing thing, and she's like, cool, the trash still hasn't been taken out, like, or vice versa. Like it feels like in life, and maybe I'm young and naive to it. It's like, man, I'm trying to fight this war of balance. So how do you guys do that? If you guys want to, we'll just take it there.
Answer this question.
Yeah. So I mean, Scott, you know, CEO of a business, right? I don't know if that's your official title or acting title of it, but yeah, go for it.
I'm just answering Sean's.
No, I honestly, on this particular subject, I feel like this year is my year of kind of getting back into balance, because in prior years, either the company was always taking first priority because we own this business, and gosh, it would suck every moment of your day out, and people would say, oh yeah, we had a great time, we really enjoyed the North Pole experience, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just want to go to bed, I haven't slept in, days, I'm so
You're like, talk to
tired."
somebody else about it, because I don't care
I'm
right
done.
now. Yeah.
I honestly, we hibernate. When we are done with the business, we hibernate usually the whole month of January. And we're very antisocial at that month. But it's just getting back to being with our kids, because we work them like dogs, Taylor will tell you. They work really hard, and we have kind of a disproportionate balance. We're all together, and it's fun, and it's exciting. But when it's done, it's just like a drain, because everything else has fallen to the wayside. Friends, God, it's like we don't get to go to church during those times. So it's really a hard time in our lives, so to speak. And we're kind of coming out of hibernation about now. But my husband, unfortunately, he'll have to expound upon it. We've had a situation with the business where he has had to take on another role, and he has had to pour into the business even more hours than he normally does and do basically 2 or 3 jobs. And so it's kind of put a hole in our family dynamic, because we used to have a date where we were trying to find our balance, so we'd have a Friday date day, since we own our own business, we're able to take a lunch together or whatever. But this year's been harder for him, and it's been easier for me, because I'm seeming to find my balance with church, with trying to grow myself, doing BSF and doing a small group, and finding the balance with that and the kids, and just feeling more in sync with things. So for me, it's working. For him, he's having a little tougher time right now, but he's trying to get back there.
Yeah. Do you want to? I mean, she set you up for it. I don't know if you.
I'm all in.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I want to kind of circle back to the legacy side of things. So as I've gotten older, I'm not going to say what my age is, but as I've gotten older, I realized that when I was younger, I would just pour a lot of time into work, trying to build things, and I did not have a life balance. And really the blessing is we didn't think we could have kids for a while. And then we were blessed with twin girls. So Jordan and Taylor. Taylor's back there. I'll probably embarrass her. And once we had the girls, it just kind of changed. It just changed everything.
Yeah.
And Sean and I just sat down and said, you know what? We got to have some non-negotiables where
I think that's. I don't mean to cut you off because I want you to roll on that, but I feel like that's an important thing for us to maybe write down. Do you have non-negotiables in your life, or is everything kind of up for debate? And I think in priorities, you can't ever have them if you don't have those non-negotiables. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of grasp onto that, because I think that's super important for leaving a legacy. But yeah, continue.
So, and I'll give you an example of what I call a non-negotiable. Some of it's just small things. So we made a kind of a pact a long time ago when the girls were little. Said every morning I'm going to wake up and make them breakfast. So Sean wakes up, we make him breakfast, and we have breakfast.
Who's the Sean
4
does?
kids.
Do they get mad if you make the breakfast?
Hers are better.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we argue because I'll get up a little earlier and I'll start it. And he'll go, I was going to make breakfast. So it's kind of our thing we do together, and the kids will be like, oh yeah, and it's our time. It's the one time we get, especially with the kids as they get older, they do sports, and you don't see them once they get cars. It's like, bye. But yeah, check you later. Breakfast is our thing, and so our family has a chance, 20, 30 minutes to sit there and talk and, hang out. And it's, how are you doing? What's going on today? And it's the one thing we have that's really important.
Yeah, sorry about go ahead, finish it.
One of the other ones, this is family, because I think when we're talking about non-negotiables, I'm doing that more and more, like in my business, and we're working on it kind of in our family dynamic. Where it's like, these are certain things that are important to us.
Yeah.
So everything else is gonna have to get designed around that. Now we're all human, we all have these different experiences, things happen,
Yeah.
and you got, sometimes non-negotiables get pinched a little bit.
You got to adjust
But you
sometimes
gotta
on the fly a little
kinda
bit. Yeah.
flex back
Yeah.
when you can. And one of the other things, the girls both played sports, softball and volleyball and things like that, and I just sat down with Sean, I said, look, I'm gonna change my schedule, just get both their sports schedules, so whenever they have games, we're not missing their games.
Yeah.
You know, unless it's, on the other side of the state,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll still try to make it,
Yeah.
but that was just something that was real important to us.
No, and I think that's so, again, having non-negotiables is so important. And I think what that brings up in my mind is, and what I feel like I'm hearing, is that having life balance doesn't actually mean things are equal, right? It doesn't mean that I get to spend an equal amount of time here as I do here, but there's still balance. So I don't know if somebody wants to take that. What do we maybe mean by that? Or
I know
if you have something
nothing
else.
about balance. My dad was workaholic in ministry for
Yeah.
60-some years, and so have I. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way doing that in the 40 years that I've been in ministry. But we did the same thing, is I made sure I learned this from my dad. My dad died on Christmas this year at 83 years old after 60-some years in the ministry. And during his last year, he was still going to Cuba and going places, helping the poor, doing things. So I was very blessed to have a father that set for me a passion that he had for Jesus, passion for the Word of God, a passion for the poor, of going out and making a difference. So people say, well, has it hurt since he's been gone this last month or two? And I said, I can't complain. Most of the students at my university, they don't even know their dad. They don't have a good relationship with their dad. So I'm not going to whine and complain about what God gave me with my dad. But I did learn along the pathway that doing the date night, and it wasn't always the same day, but we kept that consistent through our 38 years of marriage we've had it. I always say we've been married 38 years, and my wife says it's 35 of the best years of her life. But we look back through, and the date night, and then special trips with each kid, and going to their games and activities made. But here's a good piece of advice for you. Lead to your strength, staff to your weakness. Lead to your strength, staff to your weakness.
And
Write that down in your mind.
Yeah.
That's what saved this workaholic's life and will build on my legacy as I walk away from the university this year after graduation. And in talking to people, early on in ministry, and Robbie remembers this, what did I always do when I brought students in, or ministers in to speak to your guys' classes? The last question always would be, what were the biggest mistakes you made in ministry? So that they would hear it. And it was always the same. They think I programmed it. I thought I knew it all. I did too much on my own. I didn't handle criticism very well. I did everything my way. I didn't build a team. I didn't delegate to other people. I didn't train leaders, things like that. The best legacy that you can leave behind is, obviously a good marriage and great kids and stuff, but also whatever job, ministry, whatever you have, by equipping the saints, according to Paul, equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. We think the genius of the New Testament leadership is a really gifted pastor. That's not the genius of the New Testament. The genius of the New Testament leadership is multiple people doing the job. It's the pastor being the coach instead of the player. It's not the 99 cheering on the one. It's the one training the 99 and then the multiplication that goes on.
Yeah.
So do what you do best and equip others to do the other things. And I know a lot of people say, well, I can't delegate because every time I do, they screw it up. Okay? Well, that's how you started, and that's how I started.
I feel like there was too many head nods to that one. Like that elicited something.
I could hear it, yeah.
too. So how, on a more personal level, because I feel like that can naturally, in our minds, apply to business, ministry, whatever avenue that you spend your time vocationally. But how can we apply that principle to stuff at home? If maybe you don't have the ideal situation or whatever it is, but how do you staff to your weaknesses, run to your strengths kind of thing.
Well, what did I tell you guys in class? You lead to your strength, staff to your weakness. Lead to your strength, secretary to your weakness. Lead to your strength, marry to your weakness. Or
What if you married like almost the same exact person as yourself?
It's too late.
No, I'm just kidding. We're not.
So your assistant needs to be somebody opposite of you. Pastors, and I'll just pick on us for a while. Pastors really blow it a lot by hiring the next person just like themselves. And it just drives the church insane because the people love the pastor, but they realize the pastor has some blind spots. So the next person in line should be, frankly, the opposite. The strengths and needs that are different. Now, I know it's hard for you to know, I'm kind of shy and I don't like to talk a lot and stuff. And so the next person that I hired was what? A listener who could counsel good and shut their pie hole, okay? So that's what was really good in my ministry. And sometimes we don't do that. If you're, people always say, well, you have to be outgoing to be a leader in ministry. No, you don't. You don't. But the best way to get the bases covered is for you to what? Is to make sure your assistant or the next person, your assistant coach. Coaching is this way too. That's why you have a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator. And so they can act like theirs is more important than the other person's. No, just kidding. And so it's just that kind of thing. But I think we bring that to the house too. My wife brings things to the table that I don't. And obviously, I've brought too much from the table myself. But that's a different story. Sorry. This is what they had to put up with.
I feel like I don't know if it's because I'm modeling after you. I'm following your footsteps.
You're falling in
I'm feeling it. Oh, man. Well, let me jump to, again, another thing that I think will really help us in legacy. And what we've heard about a lot is the how of we, oh, my gosh, that doesn't make any sense. How we do things is directly relating to the people we're leading. They're going to absorb that. It's not what we say. It's not what we talk about being important, but it's actually what we do that proves the point. And so when things go bad, what do we do as leaders? Because I think that's where the people that are following your footsteps, they're going to watch you the most when things go bad. Not when things are going good, not when things are fluffy and everything is rolling. And I'm sure we see this in business. Like when things are rolling, everybody's like patting you on the back. When things are going bad, it's like, man, people want to kind of just get after you about it. And how do you respond? How do you deal personally? How do you deal with those tough situations? And I feel like it's kind of an open-ended question, but take it however you hear.
Okay, I'm pretty laid back, so I can, I tell if anybody has a complaint at my place, I say, send them to me on the complaint department. If I don't feel like
You're the quality assurance, yeah.
If I don't feel like dealing with it, I tell them, go out the door and go to the elevator, and on the 10th floor is the complaint department. But I take it all because it's my business. When I started out there, I was just by myself, and I was lucky enough to get a whole bunch of really good people now helping me out. So if there's something goes wrong, I'll take it, and we'll learn from it as a group. And I don't get too excited because there's nothing excited about. Someone complains about their appointment being wrong or something. Like, well, okay, we'll take care of it next time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, I take the blame because I need to be the one who is accountable for teaching all of my employees what's supposed to be right. So I'll take it and
Ownership.
ownership.
Yeah, it sounds.
And I'm still around. I haven't gotten beat up too bad over it. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think just as, and I'm gonna pick on / compliment all of you here as we keep going, but just watching the way that things have grown at Fountain Hills PT. I mean, the staff that you have, like the love that they have for you is because of the culture of love that you've created within Fountain Hills Physical Therapy, and because you take ownership for everything, they feel like they can be free to do what they've been asked to do. They don't walk around on eggshells or anything like that. They're fully operating at their optimal level, if that makes sense. And so I hope that kind of sums up well what you've tried to create there.
When you got good help, let them do what they're good at. I'm
Yeah.
not that good at a lot of things. So your mom's great at stuff, and Larkin Lips is great at stuff, and I just kind of like, hey, Go do it.
Yeah.
Make me look good.
Yeah, yeah, right. And if you don't, I'll take the blame, right? Yeah, that's I think.
That's like a football coach, you know?
No, again, I hope I'm helping you guys relate with stuff as I'm learning from these guys as well too. I struggle with my daughter sometimes because she is very, very, very opinionated, and she's not even 4 years old, and she's more right than I am 99% of the time. And actually, I think she is sometimes. Like, she's very smart too, and she'll tell me things, and I'll just like stop dead in my tracks, like, and then I try and not take ownership for it. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. And I feel bad saying that about my almost 4-year-old daughter. I think taking ownership of what you're leading, what you do, again, that's another thing that just allows people to grow their love for you as a leader because they can trust you. And I think that allows them, again, to operate at their highest level. So anyways, Scott, how do you deal with the struggles of being a leader?
Well, I'll just use an example to, I'm going to talk from a business perspective.
Yeah.
So you said our business is called the North Pole Experience. So it's a Santa's workshop experience up in Flagstaff. And we started that, 12 years
12
ago?
years ago.
Well, this is our 12th year.
12th season.
And, we have a lot of guests that come up, a lot of families, and we're entrusted with their children's innocence. It's just a real family, wholesome type of experience. And we had to learn a lot, because a lot of stuff that we do, nobody's ever done before.
Yeah.
So we had to
You're charting your own path, yeah.
I mean, it's basically, the analogy I use with my team, which was just Sean and I when we started, but it's grown
Yeah.
quite a bit, is it's a duck on the water. So I said, as far as the guests go, when they're here, I said, if everything's on fire, you can be kicking under the water. And I said, the duck on the top is
Yeah.
what the guest sees.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, they don't need to see anything else.
Yeah.
They just need to have a calm, relaxing experience. And I said, it will solve those things. And we have,
It doesn't mean we'll sweep it under the rug. We're going to deal with it, yeah.
and we're going to unbox it and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Type of things. And I had to learn a lot of leadership skills and things kind of on the fly, because this is kind of a logistics. It's an experience business, but it's a logistics business. It kind of just grew into this thing that we had to figure out on the fly.
Yeah.
But now when I work with the team, is we look at things and say, look, things are going to happen. Things are going to fall apart. Let's anticipate those things. And I try to empower them to say, you're on the front lines. You know better than I do. What are you seeing? What are things that could fail or that could happen?
Yeah.
And let's figure out some kind of redundancy for that.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've done that over the years, we kind of have a redundancy for everything.
Yeah.
So something fails, something's already there to take it, and we just don't have the problems that we used to have. And the cash used to be, we hire now about 250 college kids and high school kids during season. And we have
That sounds scary. That's a,
It is.
Trust me, my
A lot of
brother,
personalities.
my brother now handles that, because I'm not very good at that part
Yeah.
of it. But it's funny, because we have to train them, a lot of them, and about half of them are new every single year.
Yeah.
We have to train them with all these different things, but they kind of buy into it, and it's impressive that a lot of the kids, everybody's got different work ethic, and it's fun for me, and it's fun for Sean, because I can look at kids now that are the age of my kids
yeah.
and their friends, and I can tell the ones that kind of have a little bit of fire, or maybe the ones that come in and they're very shy, or you can tell there's something there. But by the time the season's over with, and we try to pour into them, we actually do leadership.
That's
training.
awesome.
Training.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Being intentional about
right.
duplicating, like Tim said, being the 99 doing it, not just the one, yeah.
And we donate, and we just say, you have to give your time, but we'll pay for all your leadership training and all that. And all these kids come in, and it's impressive. There's a lot of very sharp
Yeah.
kids. And I'll just finish with, the neat thing that I see is, it doesn't matter what your age is, if you just kind of put yourself out there. And I watch a lot of these younger kids come in, and they're shy, and they're not confident. And by the end of the season, because we just kind of push them out there, and they just have to get in front of the guests and perform, it's like Disney.
Yeah.
I think, and by the end of the season, they've challenged all their fears.
Yeah.
And in the season, they're confident, and they're laughing, and they want to be at the front of the group, and they're completely changed.
Yeah.
And they write us letters and things. It's pretty neat to see what they say
And their parents do
later as they
too.
grow up.
Yeah.
And
I think,
another thing that I
yeah.
want to touch on with that is that one of the things that they do, and a lot of these kids are really excited about doing, is charity work. they will donate their time. We'll say, hey, we're going to go to Phoenix Children's Hospital, and they are begging us, like, what's our date going to be to give back? So these kids are just like, they're coming out of their shell, and they're wanting to do things, and there's some really good, great kids. You know, everybody talks about our youth being, oh, they're lazy, they're this or that. And yes, there are some that are. Is my daughter back there? No, and I love them, but they're all like, you know, they really like to give back too.
Yeah. Well, I think
Especially-
that's, if you push them out there, you set, and this is for anybody, if you set an expectation or let them kind of fail forward, so to speak, people will rise to the occasion, I think, more often than not. And that's one of the biggest things as leaders and leaving a legacy is, are you allowing people an opportunity to fail, or are you safeguarding everything that they do? So,
Can I just add one final thing?
yeah,
From my experience, and I'm, you're getting up there, but failing and getting used to failing, and just knowing, people are gonna make fun of you, they're gonna, when we came out with this idea, everybody told me, that's the craziest thing they'd ever heard.
I was the
That's-
first one in line.
She was my first one, she was a dog pile.
yeah,
That's why I knew it'd work. Because it was so outside the box.
yeah,
That I said, it'd probably work.
Mhm.
That was, let's roll the dice. But the big thing that I learned is, when I was growing up, I was shyer, more quiet, but I got mentors, people that were more outgoing, and I started becoming more outgoing, because
Yeah.
I kind of emulated them.
surround yourself with who you want to be like, yeah,
And then it's just got more comfortable, and then it just kind of, you fail, as long as you know you're gonna fail, it's just learn, you're just learning.
yeah,
You make an adjustment, you keep going forward. It doesn't matter if you're 18, or if you're 58, if you're 68, if you have that mindset, and you don't worry about what people think, you really you can do anything,
yeah.
in my opinion.
Amanda, what do you think?
No, you're good. So I think you were asking about how we deal with failures and challenges as a leader.
Yeah,
And I think one of the important things, especially in the personal life arena, is giving people access to your life. And that's really scary, and it takes time, which makes it really cumbersome for those of us who feel like we have a lot of plates that we're spinning in the air. But the only way that we can allow someone else to benefit from our failure is if they have a front row seat, if they're in the car with us, if they're hearing you process, you know, what you're walking through, and they're watching how you're going to God with it. They're watching or hearing at least how you talk about it with your husband, or they're watching you discipline your kid. And so it's challenging to give people access to our lives because we know that they're going to see us mess up, right? Because we're all human. But we're called to be a living example, not a perfect one. So I think that there's power when we give people access. And, the Bible talks about finding people of peace. And so that's not everyone. We're not called to mentor everyone. We're not called to give everybody access to the deep parts of our life. God brings those people, and then you have an encounter with them. And I think there's some discernment there. Is this going to be someone that can add to my life, and a person that I can add to their life? Because not everybody is a perfect match. But I think that's part of the thing, at least in the personal life. And then in the professional arena, I think debriefing everything is really important, right?
Yeah.
So we've been taking some big swings as a team where I'm in ministry, and so that means we fail, right? Sometimes the band is playing a measure ahead of the track. Sometimes the lights are doing something else, right? But it's like we have to move. We have to move somewhere. And then when we fail, I think as a leader, it is owning it fully, and being upfront about, the very beginning, hey, we're going to take some swings today. We might miss a couple balls, just calling it, it might happen. But then when you don't, when you knock it out of the park, everybody gets to share in the win.
Yeah.
And when it's a fail, the leader takes the fail first.
yeah,
Our smoke machine broke the other day during chapel.
Then the Holy Spirit can't come.
Yeah, and I didn't know what was going to happen. We had to quit church. So, but there was smoke all over. I couldn't see the front row.
Oh, so it was going. It's not like it broke and it stopped. It's
Yeah,
just
it just started to go everywhere. I couldn't see people. It's probably better for them. They couldn't see me. But I changed my message to on the burning bush, and God really worked. So it was neat. So I think my 2 cents on this is flexing. I think being open and vulnerable. I always say it this way: be open and honest. Don't hang out all your dirty laundry.
Yeah.
I think it's important that they know that we struggle. And I've always said, and this is kind of a weird way to say this, but I really would, in all of these years of ministry, not wanting students to walk out of my class going, gosh, that guy's a genius. He is so smart. Look at all the degrees he's got, and he's such a great communicator, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a part of your ego that wants that. But when you think about the scripture and you think about all the humility that you were talking about that Jesus was modeling for us and, and Paul was writing for us in Philippians, wouldn't it be better if they walk out of my class going, man, if God can use that guy, there's hope for me.
Yeah.
And I need to stand up. He'll tell you that I'm kind of a flea on a hot rock. But I
used to think that I was random, and then
this
I was in his classes.
shows you about what it means to be ADHD and God can still use you. My wife says I'm the poster child back before it was a popular disease. But here's the bottom line, is every one of them will tell you she can't have a worship band with 10 lead singers. The coaches can't have 5 quarterbacks and no one to block. And so what we get ourselves caught up into sometimes is that because I'm not a pitcher, because I'm not a quarterback, and because I can't sing, that, then it's okay for me to hide over here. No, again, bringing back to the genius of the New Testament is our job as pastors and leaders to equip the saints to do the work of ministry. If we're doing the job, the legacy is going to live on. The multiplication is going to go on. People are going to pass the baton on, okay? When I really get messed up in ministry is when I think it's all about me and my gifts. And when I work, so vigorously in the flesh, I get frustrated because people aren't changing fast enough. And they don't realize how much I've done for them, and everything. And then all of a sudden I realize I got to minister in the Spirit and do what the Spirit says, and that is create an environment. So how do you raise good kids? How do you pass a legacy? How do you multiply? How do you do all this stuff? You're involved in creating this atmosphere. You let God do his work in people. Our passionate job is to create this environment by building a relationship with these people, building trust with them, modeling for them the best that we can. And when we blow it, like he says, kids really messed up my life. I used to be able to use a lot of other language before I had kids. And then when my kids left, my wife and I were fighting, so we decided to take in foreign exchange students for 7 years. You have non-believers live in your house. It's tough. I had to clean up my language again, okay? And because I didn't want them to have a bad example of what a Christian's all about. So a lot of it is what? Just being yourself, okay? The craziness, the idiosyncrasies that I have, that if God can use me, he can use you. So get up out of your chair and do something for the Lord. But realize it's not about your giftedness and talent. It's about you being faithful to the few loaves and fish that he's given to you. Mm-hmm. Give it back to him. Let him bless. And then he'll use you in a kind of a unique way. And I used to hear people say all the time that, well, this pastor did this and this pastor did that. And I always say the biggest influence in the community are businessmen and teachers and firefighters and military people and people that are moms in the community that are going out. They expect the pastor. I always kid with Jordan, we're paid to be good. You guys are good for nothing. Okay? So what you need to understand is your impact. So your impact as you go out is far greater than us as paid ministers because they expect that from us. Okay? They don't expect that from you who are working in the community and showing love and being the hands and feet of Jesus. So keep up the good work. Yeah. Okay? Don't let things drag you down. Realize that God's going to use you in the midst of your frailties to create that environment. So let me wrap this section up by just saying this. How do you raise good kids in the midst of all this? As I always would tell people, you surround them with teachers, coaches, youth leaders, mentors, good parents, single parents that are really good, that are trying their hardest or whatever. We surround the kids. You know what the kids finally say? All of these people can't be stupid at the same time. What they're saying must make sense. They love me. They want the best for me. And it makes a huge difference. So, are some of them going to make bad decisions? Yeah. That's why I can't take credit as a parent that right now. And here's a good illustration for you. I have a lady come up to me after church one day, and my daughter was home from the mission field. She's been in Africa, Philippines, all over, lived in the Dominican for 10 years as a missionary. And she's sharing, and these parents come up to me and go, you must be so proud of your daughter now. And I said, today she's doing great. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And I knew exactly what she was saying. Is your kid so good and my kid's not very good? How did you do that? Yeah. And she wanted to give me credit for that. I'm not going there. I'm not going to go there. Because God works, my kid has a free will, can make the response that they want to make in their life. Our job is to create the environment. Over time, I was able to share with a few of these parents. My daughter made some bad decisions. I had a person try to molest her. I had a bunch of different things that went on during that situation. And you know what? You don't give up. You keep loving. You keep bringing them through. And you keep protecting them the best that you can. But we can't do everything for these kids, but create that environment. Yeah. Does that make sense?
And I think, we can apply all of these things, whether it's coaching, business, parenting, it's all the same. Relationships with your friends, it's all the same. You know, all these principles tie into each other. And so I think the biggest thing is you got to take extreme ownership, but you can't internalize all of the criticism. You can't take the brunt of all of it and just let it eat you alive. You got to be able to continue to move forward as a leader. And so we are short on time, and I want to wrap this up as best we can. So if you guys can just give me small snippets of an answer for these next two questions. And this will be a tough one, but do the best that you can. Who's somebody that had an amazing impact on you that has started your legacy or left a legacy on you? Just one person. Who is that?
So when I was in junior high, there was a worship leader who took me under his wing, and the key thing that I hope to model, that he modeled to me, is that mentorship is two-part. It's inherently personal, it's discipleship, and it's equipping for the task. And he did both of those with me. He was able to walk me through my faith and grow me through the journey that is life. And he was able to give me practical skills to make me better at my craft. And so that's something that I try to do with the people I walk with is twofold. It's more of a holistic picture. Don't just, teach them how to fish, but also explain the ecosystem and I guess a balanced approach to the Christian life and also being good at your job.
Yeah. Anybody else? One person that left that legacy on you.
My grandparents were all farmers, and they got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to milk cows and work till 6 at night. And that's kind of what I do now. I don't milk cows, but I do. So I kind of saw that work, that dedication to and being a leader and taking care of their kids and so forth. And my grandparents were great examples.
Yeah.
I'd say my grandfather, growing up, 5th grade education, started World War II, and came back, started a little business, and grew. Just a very outgoing, very positive, very strong Christian man. I learned more about him after he passed away than I thought I knew about him when he was alive. He was just a great man. And then I had another mentor here in Arizona, Ed Button. He was from England. I'd met him, and guy was just larger than life, very just solid man. And he passed away about 12 years ago from cancer, and he was quite a bit older, but he took a lot of time just to pour into me and spend time to teach me things, and I just hung on every word that he had to say. It was fantastic.
I'd say definitely my grandparents. I had some really wonderful grandparents that were farmers. They were very humble. They didn't have a whole lot, and they were very loving, and they showed me what a loving family was, and they were great leaders and role models for me.
Good. Did you want to add anything to that, Tim, or no? No. You have hit your character count. I'm actually going to skip the last question because, again, we've been kind of random as far as like the nuggets that maybe you can hold on to. But I pray and I hope that there is something that you can take away today, whether it's the importance of you continuing to be all that you have been and all that you are, or that you understand that leadership isn't as glamorous as it sometimes looks, feels, or sounds. That it's all about being in the nitty-gritty with people and taking that ownership and letting people be in on your life. And here's the last thing that I want us to do is, and I don't want you to do this here, I want you to do this on your own time, is a small exercise. And you can type this in your phone. If you have something to write down, go ahead and write this down. It's a legacy framework. And I hope that being intentional about something in your life will allow you to see real fruit of it. Because I know what we actually care about, if we don't measure it, we'll never actually understand how good we're doing. And so here it is. Plan your legacy. I'm gonna explain all of these bullet points. So here's the first one. Plan your legacy. Okay. Number 2, assess your life. Number 3, go to the cross. And number 4, work hard now. Okay. And so when I talk about plan your legacy, I want you to actually write down what do you want your legacy to be. And I don't know if my parents did this with me, if they did this with my siblings. I don't know if my grandparents did this with them or with me or however it is. But I know that the people who had an impact on me were incredibly intentional. And it was like they were calculated in how they were going to go about it. And Amanda, I think about this with the person that you had mentioned. I'm sure that they, and I don't even want to call it a formula, but they had a rhyme and a reason for everything that they were doing. It wasn't just, just come along for the ride and we'll see how it goes. You know, it's I want to actually be intentional. So what do you want your legacy to be? Do you want to be known as an outstanding mother or father? Do you want to be known as fill in the blank? Do you want to leave a legacy of unconditional love, whatever that is for you? And I have a feeling if you're here tonight, you have an inkling of what you want your legacy to be, and maybe it's not matching up with where you're at. And so let's write it down. Let's plan it. Let's have it be a goal. What's your legacy? What would you like to leave for those who follow you? Okay, and then assess your life. Get an accurate assessment of where am I currently at in this trajectory? Am I actually there? Have I achieved it? Have I become the legacy that I want to be? And Trent said this, man, it probably had to have been a month ago. It doesn't matter how old you are or where you're at in life, you still have an opportunity to do something now. It doesn't matter how young you are, no matter what point you are in your life, you still have an opportunity to do something now. So wherever you are, whoever you are, assess your life. Are you achieving what you set out to do? Are you leaving the legacy that you want to leave? And then number 3, and this I think looks different for all of us. And maybe you guys can chime in on this part, but or the last couple parts. But go to the cross. Are you humble enough to say, I don't know everything and I'm failing? God, give me direction. Give me guidance on where I'm at. And then, like I said, the last one, work hard now. So take an actionable step, and this is the last part that I want you to write down. Take an actionable step of what you can do tomorrow, and maybe your tomorrow's super busy and you can't do tomorrow. Thursday, okay? Whatever, as soon as you possibly can, what's an actionable step that you can take to start living out the legacy that you've always wanted to leave? And do that now. Don't waste another moment or give yourself an excuse as to why you can't be the type of person that you want to be, or the type of leader that you want to be. Start leaving the legacy now. Do the hard work now. If you want to be a person of impact, man, write down how you can do that, and let's get started today, tonight, tomorrow, as soon as possible. Create that actionable step. And I don't know, just closing words or question and answer. If anybody has, actually, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut that. If you have a question, I'm offering these guys his time a little bit. You could come bug them a little bit. Maybe just grab their phone grab their number. So that, don't grab their phone. They'll fight you. Grab their number, get a hold of them, take them out to lunch sometime, hang out with them. These are all amazing people that we can learn some great things from. But does anybody have anything? Can I just have it? Oh, okay. You want to take a picture with them? Smiles. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? One little bit of things you want to share.
Right now, constantly working on the spiritual part of my life, my legacy. But what's really helped me is, coming and basically listen to you and Trent and Keith, but also my men's group, the life group, has really helped me a lot.
Yeah. Getting involved, like we were talking about, the Barnabas, the group of people that are going to help push you forward, encourage you.
Small group talk.
Yeah.
And to kind of add to what you said, for me, I think the 2 biggest things, this is what I want to finish with, is, and I can't remember what book I read it, I like to read a lot, is you become, this is so true, you become like the 5 people that you spend the most time around. So your friends and the people that you choose to spend your time around, if they're not pushing you to the next level, if not positive, and you can't learn from them, things, you're either gonna keep growing as a person by being around, people that are gonna challenge you, or you're gonna kind of stay stagnant.
Yeah.
And that's when I had one last thing. I have to open my.
Well, you're finding that. I think that that's huge. Again, if you are doing that self-assessment of where you're at, who are you spending who are the 5 people that you're spending the most time with? Are they leaving the legacy that you'd like to lead?
And piggybacking off him, readers are leaders and leaders are readers. We hear that phrase a lot. But in this generation, it's easy to move away from the reading aspect of it. But that phrase of you stop growing today, you stop leading tomorrow, you stop teaching tomorrow. Even for those of us that are getting older, these ladies are still in their 20s, but we're getting older and we want to continue to grow. And that's why I always say readers are leaders and leaders are readers. My mentor kept saying to me, who you are is more important than what you do. Mm-hmm. And what are my college kids thinking about right now? What they want to do, not who they are becoming. Right. So I'm trying to get them to, and here's a good way to say it. Who you are is more important than what you do. So become someone significant. So what are you doing to become someone significant? Mm-hmm. What are the specific disciplines of reading and journaling and being mentored and even counsel and accountability and dealing with the fears and the abuses of our past to be able to move past that to help other people. So I think those things, so that comes right back into you find your quote there?
You just teed up the quote.
Yeah.
So I was reading on a plane, this was right before our season basically, and I think it was in November. We were coming back from Texas. And I was reading, and I read a quote in a book, and I was like, I wish I'd have read this. I'm going to frame it. We just talked about it tonight. I'm going to frame it, put it in our house. It's the most powerful quote for personal leadership, how you direct yourself and your personal legacy. And it says, every day you have to fight the battle of doing what is right, hard, and necessary, or doing what is fun, easy, and of no value. And you think about, and I'm guilty of it, you end up watching, TV or news.
I spend a lot of time on this thing, and it has
Yeah.
literally no value. Yeah.
And I'm just going to read it one more time. It's like every day you have to fight the battle of doing what is right, hard, and necessary. That's where the rewards come from. Mm-hmm. And that's actually the fun part. Or doing what is fun, easy, and of no value.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when I read that. If I'd have known that at 18, I would have had a completely different mindset
Yeah.
about things. So
Hint for you youngins up there. Yeah. Amanda, go ahead. What's your closing?
My final thought is if you're in a position of authority, if you have positional leadership, because we all know everybody leads, right? Even if you're only leading your toddler at home, but everybody leads. If you have a position of leadership in a company or an organization, I would something that I've challenged myself and I would challenge you is always be asking who could be doing this job alongside of you. Mm-hmm. With every task that you're doing, with everything that you're leading, it's easy to take someone younger, to take someone newer along with you, to show them the ropes, to give them the authority, to give them the responsibility. Some of us are control freaks, so that's really, really difficult to do. But the only way that our legacy lives on is when we get out of the way and we multiply ourselves. And so our goal should always be to replace me, hopefully with 10 people who are way better at it than I am.
Yeah. Cool. Do you guys have anything to add, or good?
No, I honestly just say, I always feel like I was telling him, I said, I have really great kids. I'm very proud of them, and I tear up every time I think about it because they're just good kids. And despite me and despite my husband and all of our failures and everything we do wrong every day, I honestly have to say my kids are one of the reasons why I have come back to God and church and refocused my life. And they amaze me every day, and they are not perfect. They screw up all the time. Ask them, but I'm so very proud of them. The way they give their hearts and souls and minds and who they are as people. I'm really at this point in my life, I know you talk about trials and hey, they're doing good today. I feel very blessed to have such great kids and that they teach me and I'm learning from them and they're leaders.
Yeah.
And they're awesome kids.
Yeah.
And this man right here and his wife back there poured into them immeasurably, just awesome stuff, and they're doing stuff that I never would have done at their age or thought to do. So I'm just really, really proud that they got some really good mentors here at the church, and it's been awesome because it's rippled through my whole family.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
So
Well,
I
let's
wanna
pray
say
here.
thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Can we give them a round of applause here real quick? And then we're gonna pray, and yeah, if you guys want to ask them a question, bug them, go for it. God, we just thank you for the time that we had here together. God, I pray that we can take one thing from tonight and honestly apply it to our lives. Let it change who we are. Let it impact who we are, God. Let these things multiply us as leaders, that we can leave the legacy that you've called us to leave, that we can be the type of people that you've called us to be. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.